Morning, everyone, and welcome to ORAC 2.0 webinar series. Good morning. My name is Paul Wrigley, and I am ORAC's incoming president, as well as co-chair of the Associates Committee. I'd like to thank Amy Carpenter and Jessica Shaver from the ORAC office for joining me today to handle the technical aspects of this Zoom meeting. Attendees have been muted, but if you have a question, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and Amy or Jessica will make our presenter aware of the questions at an appropriate break in the presentation. Today we will be presenting Season 2, Episode 5 of our series, and our presenter today is David Morrell, a partner and senior business solutions advisor representing PandaPay, one of our newest ORAC associate members. David has 14 years in the credit card payment processing industry and has saved his 500 plus clients a collective $2 million in fees. Most of us believe the fees are a necessary evil and that there's nothing we can do to reduce or minimize them. David's here to demonstrate otherwise. He's here today to educate us a little bit on the ins and outs of payment processing so you can reduce your processing fees and keep more money in your account instead of your bank's. Please welcome David Morrell. Take it away, David.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. And I want to thank ORAC for the opportunity to speak to your members today. This part of your business, as boring as it can be sometimes, is a vital part. So I want to jump into a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen. I will have time at the end. I want to go through some stuff that's important for all the members. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to share my screen now, Amy. Give me 2 seconds. So PandaPay, simple, honest, and straightforward. This is my contact information for anybody, and it'll be available at the end. There's my personal cell, but my extension here at head office. So basically, if anybody needs to get a hold of me afterwards, ask me any questions. If you need to get your accountant or your CFO or controllers to get a hold of me, you have the contact information. So a little bit about me and some of my clients to kind of build the credibility and who is this guy. So I spent 5 years fighting the credit card industry at one of the biggest lobby support groups in the country as a district manager in New Brunswick. I moved to Ontario in 2013 originally. And since then, we started PandaPay in 2014. Why? Because everybody in the industry wasn't explaining a lot of the stuff I'm going to go over today. Very simply put, these clients saw the presentation you're about to see and thought, this is good for my business. So SODOC is one of my original associations like ORAC. I do CPA Canada, Choice Hotels, the Ontario Electrical League. So you probably know some of the names. And if you're from Ontario, you would know some of these names. They're very large restaurants and long-standing businesses, okay? What do my clients typically say about me and the knowledge I'm about to share with you? They typically thank me. And we do have the highest rating in the country for payment processing at 4.8 currently. No one's even close. But what I've been able to do is share knowledge with industry, and two of my referrals, SODOC and Arizona, which is one of the biggest HVAC companies in Ottawa, partner with me because of the knowledge I'm about to share with you today. So cooling off the high cost of accepting credit cards. That guy is freezing, and that's what we're hoping to do to your rates, freeze them, okay? So what do you need to know first? Visa and MasterCard have hard cost. It's the same for every processor. So it doesn't matter if it's TD, Merchant Services, Moneris, Chase, PandaPay, Global, any of the different payment processors out there have what's called the Canadian Interchange Guide. It's the hard cost of Visa and MasterCard. I'm going to show it to you in a moment. The other thing is you are protected from increases in your fees. Most people are not aware of that. November 18, 2014, that's my lobbying background coming into effect, the FCAC put in place what's called the Canadian Code of Conduct for the credit card and debit card industry in Canada. So you do have protection. If at any time your rates are increased, you're out of your contract free of charge, and you can cancel any leases that go along with that. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Here is the Visa and MasterCard rates. And why am I sharing them? I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I don't want to bore you to tears today. What I want to do is just let you know that they exist. And we can certainly, on a separate call, go over it in a lot more detail. But very simply, there's about 4 or 5 different cards you're going to take, and there's a couple of different ways you're going to take them. And it doesn't matter if it's Visa or MasterCard. I'll show you the MasterCard in a second. This is the base card, and basically the price goes up from there. Same with MasterCard. They have a base card, meaning the cheapest card you can take, which is card present, contactless, and these are your most common MasterCards. This is your everyday MasterCard. This is your Costco card. This is your Costco card on steroids, as they would call it. So it doesn't matter who you're dealing with as a payment processor, this is their cost. So anything over and above that is where PandaPay and any other processor is able to save you money, okay? Oh, it's break time. We went over too many numbers. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure we got that in there. So 4 things that you need to look at on your statement. And the most important 4 things, in my opinion, that makes it very simple and easy for you to look at. And I'm going to show you in a couple of different statements. The first one is by far the easiest one and the fastest way to know whether or not you're being charged the proper rate or a decent rate, okay? It's called the effective merchant discount rate. What it is, it's an average of all the cost of accepting Visa and MasterCard and Amex. So I'll show you on a statement what that means. The second thing you want to look for on your statement is the special messages about rates. It tells you if your pricing is about to increase, and it has to be on your statement, or you have to get a notification 90 days before. And that has to do with the code of conduct. But very simply put, one of the reasons why they put it on a statement is because they think people are going to look at it. And the FCAC said, well, put it on the statement. Everybody looks at their statement. Well, by a raise of hands, and I can't see you all, raise your hand if you looked at your statement this month. And I assume there's a few hands not up, because a lot of people don't look at their statement. They just see the cost and they take it as the cost of doing business. But that's an important thing to look at on your statement. It'll tell you when your rate increases are coming, which is extremely important because it tells you you can get out of your contract if you don't like your current pricing, okay? Number 3 is other fees. There's a lot of fees on a statement. So when you're looking at the statement and breaking it down and trying to understand this Chinese or Greek that you're looking at, it can be hard. And that's why you need an expert to look at it with you and say, what is this? And do I need this fee? And why do I have this fee? So you'll see things like network fees and data security fees and PCI and non-PCI fees, etc. Just so you know, this is not included in the cost of the effective merchant discount rate. When they show you the rate, that's just the cost of Visa and MasterCard's cost and your payment processor's cost. That is not all the other fees in it as cost, okay? And the last thing that's most important to look at in your statement for today anyways is machine cost. If you show a machine cost on your statement, what does it mean? If you don't, what does it mean? I'm going to explain a little bit of that. But typically in Canada, if you're renting the machine from your current provider, it must be on your statement, okay? If you're not seeing your payment on your statement, you see it as a separate payment, 99% of the time it means you're leasing the equipment. I would almost say 100% of the time. But the reality is there's some odd ones out there, okay? But a lot of times that's one of the most important things you can look at, okay? So I want to show you on an actual statement where you can see certain things that we just talked about. So this is a TD statement. So if anybody out there is currently using TD Merchant Services, your statement would look very similar to this. This is the field where they show you the special notes or notifications. And as you can see, MasterCard International and Visa credit cards have recently changed some of their interchange rates, which may impact you. This is one of the things that FCAC did not do is tell people all the details. It would take forever on pages of notes. So what they allowed them to do is just put a little blurb. By the way, your rates are going up. You might want to contact us, or you might want to go and look at the rate changes. This notification typically happens 3-4 times a year sometimes. And some of it is Visa and MasterCard putting the rates up, but a lot of times it's your payment processor changing the rate of accepting that card, which basically means putting your price up. It's the only industry where almost on a regular basis, there's a price increase, okay? The effective merchant discount rate, the number one thing to look at, there it is right there on a TD statement. So this client, all of the visas they accepted, they paid on average 1.986. So if you were to take 1.986 and times it by their total sales, that would give you the fees right here that they spent on Visa and MasterCard, just for the Visa and MasterCard accepting, not all the other fees that you can be hit with, okay? Same thing with MasterCard, it would show you the same thing. So those are two of the things I wanted you to see right away. The other thing, things like other charges, you can see statement fees. Sometimes there'll be statement fees, data security fees. Anybody know what a data security fee is? And without muting you, it was unmuting you, it was a rhetorical question, because I'll tell you, it doesn't exist. It's a data security fee. It's just a made up term. It's just another fee that sometimes payment processors will put in place. Realistically, on each account, there's about 2 or 3 fees that are hard coded. Your statement fee is one, and a PCI compliance fee is number 2. The rest of them, a lot of times, is by different payment processors. Now, effective merchant discount rate is also on a global statement. It's on every one. There's the one for this client. And as you can imagine, this client was very happy when I explained that most of my clients pay well under 2%. This client was paying 5.2, 6.7, 4.9. So as you can imagine, we ended up saving them a lot of money. They were doing good volume on their 3 locations, and this was a big savings for them, okay? This is a Chase Paymentech statement. I want to show you, and it would be the same on all statements, just so you guys know. And there's the effective merchant discount rate on a Chase Paymentech statement. So you can find it on each of your statements. It is not the same on every statement. It can be much different from statement to statement, okay? So the effective merchant discount rate for this MasterCard client was 2.7. This would be excessive. This would be on the much higher rate. Most of my clients are paying between 1.5 and 1.75 for MasterCard right now, because 2 years ago, MasterCard got very aggressive on their rates and reduced their fees. There is the description of your rental program. So when you see your machines down here, and this client's paying $62.95 for 3G machines, this is the old model, the IWL 255. There's a lot of them out there. But as you can imagine, we were able to save the money because this is a rental program. They've been paying this amount forever. So as long as they were with Chase Paymentech, they were paying a rental. 99% of payment processors in Canada that are associated with banks, so Chase, Moneris, Global, TD, and Desjardins, they rent their equipment. We rent our equipment also. We also do lease to own and purchase, but with the rental program, with most of the providers, there's a reason. It's cash flow. They buy the machine once and they sell it to you forever. So that's some of the things that we can help people with, give them options in regards to. But this client, as you can see, if you don't see the fee for the machine on your statement, there's only 2 ways you have your machine. You purchased it when you opened your account, or you, in most cases, lease the equipment. So you'll have a payment from a leasing company, Grenke, First Data. There's a bunch of leasing companies that work in our industry, and some that we might not even know the names because they're a private company, but there's lots of options for that. But typically, if you've seen your machine rental, if you see it right here, it is a rental, okay? Uh-oh, it's those damn numbers again. I know we'd all like to be on the golf course versus going over this stuff, but we'll keep going. So the call to action for ORAC members is bring me in, get me to talk to your controller, your office manager. We can do a quick Zoom call. And one of the things that we'll do is I'll go through all of these fees on individual statements. One of the things that most people don't realize is if you go to all the Ford dealerships in town, their trucks are pretty much going to be the same cost. Now, depending on options and all the bells and whistles you get, but if you get the exact same vehicle at a Ford dealership and go over to another Ford dealership, if the price is different, you know what's going on. It's typically that dealer's trying to charge you more. Same in our industry, okay? But what we like to do is we like to go through each individual statement, because here's the thing. Every payment processor in Canada, with every client they have, depending on risk, how long they've been in business, how big they are in volume, there's typically different rates. So no two statements are exactly the same. Almost never is that the case, unless you're on an associate pricing. So very simply put, unless you're with CPA Canada as an example, every CPA Canada member in Canada has the exact same price from PandaPay. Okay, so that's one of the things that we'll look at on your statement, because if you have a Chase statement at one location, it might be even different for the second location. So what we'll do is we'll go through the cost savings estimator. We'll see what is your current pricing and what is PandaPay's pricing in regards to it, and how much can we save you. Typically in your industry, the HVAC industry and air conditioning industry, I've saved most members between $5,000 and $10,000 per location, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the volume and the cut types you take, okay? My contact information again, so if any of you would like to get your controller or yourself to, send me a statement, have me review it, or get on a Zoom call with me, I'm available for at all times. I work out of the office now. Because of COVID, I don't typically go out, and I am in Ottawa, so it's kind of hard. But any questions? So you can certainly open it up. I know that was a kind of a quick blow through there, Paul, but I wanted you to know I didn't want to take a lot of everybody's time today. I just wanted to go over the basics, and there probably is lots of questions in regards to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dave, I have a question. Can you tell me, on average, what do you think you can save the average contractor in a year on their fees?
And like I said, Paul, it really depends on their statement and their volume. Most of the clients that I've dealt with, as you can imagine, I have the 500 numbers about right. My average client saves around $2,500 per year per location. So depending on how big they are, but my average client does $42,000 a month in processing. So
right.
Based on that, if somebody does more or less, then we'll go from there. But here's the kind of, I'll call it the curveball. Some people, if they're using global payments or TD, they could be doing $42,000 of volume, and I'm going to save them 30 grand, because there's a lot of excessive fees on the most expensive payment processors in Canada are Global and TD, and then it's Moneris and Chase. Those are the four big ones I go against. They're also the four biggest in Canada, but the most expensive in Ontario right now is Global and TD. In BC, it's actually Moneris. So it just depends on the area. But in Ontario, it's Global for sure, and then TD. So if somebody has a global statement because they deal with CIBC, National Bank, or HSBC, and the bank manager told them, hey, go talk to Global, those clients I'm going to save a lot more typically. Not always, but typically.
Yeah, I noticed that there's a bit of a disparity between the rates that, say, Visa charges, MasterCard charges. Is there a reason they're not all sort of standardized? I mean, they're in competition with each other. So if you're the higher one, you're going to get less clientele, I would think.
There is, and what they're trying to do, and let me just go back to that slide. Give me 2 seconds, okay? So when you look at MasterCard for the longest time on the consumer card, which is, just so everybody knows, the consumer card is the most common MasterCard, okay? It's about 65% of MasterCards are common consumer cards. Then there's the rewards cards, which will be called your World, which is your Costco. If you look at your Costco card, it says World right on it. If you look at a Costco and you're a high spending Costco client, it could say World Elite, but it's almost going to be a World, because these are rewards. Here's what's happening. The business owner is paying a difference between these two cards, because that difference pays for the rewards. It's unbelievable, but it's true. I mean, it's terrible. And most people don't even know. This money right here, this percentage, so when you do $1,000 transaction, pay $12.20, that goes to the bank that issued the credit card, and then they give the rewards to their client. And the same with Visa. The common card is $125. Visa Infinite, which is the most common card in Canada, this card represents about, I'm going to say 50 to 60% of the transactions in Canada for Visa. It also represents 77% of transactions, because Visa does 77% of the transactions in Canada. So literally, this card is used 35% of the time in Canada, and this is the rate. And that's one of the things that the biggest thing is risk. And the second biggest thing is the rewards program. So you look at a Visa Infinite, which is your high spend. It's your millionaires and billionaires, guys with lots of money or spend lots of money on their credit card. They get big rewards. So they have to collect more money to give the rewards to that client. And you pay for it.
Fair enough. Any more questions from the audience?
If you have a question, you can either raise your hand and I can unmute you, or you can type it in the Q&A box there.
Okay, well, thank you, David. That was a very interesting and informative presentation. I'd encourage everyone that would like to get more detail on what David can do for you to write down his contact information that's on the screen at the present time, or call ORAC if you need to get his contact info, and he'd be happy to do an analysis of your existing fee schedules and so on.
And I would like to show something, Paul, really right before I left, because I wanted to show it to the members. Most people are not aware of this document right here. This is the code of conduct I was discussing earlier. I want everybody to see this as the last thing that goes in their mind, because what is the most important thing about payment processing? People feel comfortable. They deal with their bank because they feel comfortable. But one of the things that we like to let people know is they think they're in a contract. There are no more contracts in Canada. They were kind of put away with in 2014. This is the code of conduct right here. And it states if your current payment processor increase your rates, they have to give you at least 90 days notice to look for somebody else like a Panda Pay, and they have to let you out of your contract for free. So a lot of people think they have to pay big penalties, because there used to be, before 2014, there were huge penalties to change a processor. We're not at that point with any of your members, just so you know. We're at a point where your members are able to contact me and talk about the rates, but there's no obligation to switch. But if they do switch, there's a lot of times easy ways to get out of the agreement because their prices just increased. And the second thing is we cover the cost. It's that FCAC guidelines state that the cost can be no more than $300 to cancel your agreement. Just so everybody knows that. And I want to kind of leave that with people. You know, they'll think, oh, I want to get a quote, but I don't want to get nailed with fees to leave. You're not going to. It's not going to cost you anything to switch. The most important thing is, let's see if it makes sense financially for you guys first, and then we'll look at anything else.
Okay, thanks again, David. As part of this webinar, Panda Pay has sponsored a $100 e-gift card to your choice of store that will be randomly raffled off to all of the attendees today. The winner will be contacted via email by Amy tomorrow. You will also be receiving a brief survey. If you could fill that in and return it, it would let us know how the presentation went over. We can give that feedback to David for future opportunities. The next ORAC 2.0 webinar will be entitled 5 Ways to Massive Profits, and is sponsored by Action Coach, which is another one of our new associate members, and will be taking place on Wednesday, June the 9th at 10 a.m. Keep your eyes open for details.